Okay, this is officially the very first My Favorite Moments. Now, to quickly describe what this is, it's basically I pick an anime that I've really enjoyed, that I've seen in the past, that is already been not completed in the sense of manga, but has, like, it's currently not airing. That doesn't mean it's not going to get another season, it just means it's currently not airing. Which would also describe what's on your screen, which is Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail is a show with a plethora of episodes, but not one of the longest shows in the world compared to a lot of others. But at the same time, still does have a good amount. It is one of like the highest rated animes. It's one of like the most well known. I should really say not really highest rated, but most well known. One of them, and just overall has been a show that I've watched in its full, like completely from start to finish, and I've seen both the movies for it as well, and I have just loved and adored the show. So because of that, I have decided to make it my favorite moments. So, yeah, my very first favorite moment is also the first moment in the show, really. um, it is the very first episode because it really kind of throws you. Um, you already beat like their very first bad guy. You meet the two technical main characters, but really there's like a total of five. It's kind of weird. You meet the main character. I would put that in like quotations or like exclamation or something, because Lucy really isn't the main character. And okay, there's also going to be a lot of spoilers for this, just so you're aware. But you meet the main character, Lucy, and she's wanting to join the guild Fairy Tail. So she goes to a city. She's looking for like just like her way in, and then she meets a guy who's pretending to be Natsu the salamander, but then Natsu actually kind of comes, like shows up, but no one really knows that he's the actual salamander. Then he later on just kind of rescues Lucy, even though Lucy was like already kind of like sticking it to the man, to like the dude that was pretending to be realizing that he was not, and that he was trying to use her, even though it wasn't actually something bad that he would like it like the show kind of showed it as something bad, but then it turned out it like wasn't really anything bad. Um, but yeah, just that just it made me feel so happy, because then you meet all like your two main people, the people that you're going to be seeing for the next however long, with all the different storylines, and then it like you realize that the person that you were introduced to at the very beginning, which was technically Lucy, wasn't actually the main character, and that she is like technically part of like the five main characters, but to be truthful, like the main character is Natsu. And I just really enjoyed the first episode. Like it made me really happy. It made me laugh. It kind of really shows what you're going to see, because there are some serious moments, there's some funny moments, there's just overall it kind of made you slightly aware of what you're going to be seeing through the rest of the show, and you're like, huh, this is kind of cool. And then you keep watching episodes. You better keep watching those episodes. Okay, and the next part that I probably would have to pick as one of my favorite moments from Fairy Tail would be the Phantom Lord. Oh, it was such a good arc. Just it started off pretty violently, with from people getting hurt, and in their guild hall being smashed up, and Lucy getting kidnapped, and like how the whole premise of it was really how like Lucy's father was wanting Lucy back for an arranged marriage, yada yada. So then they messed with Fairy Tail. Then the Guildmaster was like, we ain't having this. And then just remembering the scene of them smashing into the Phantom Lord's base, being like, Fairy Tail's calling. Oh my god, that was flippin' phenomenal. To be truthful, that was like had to be one of my favorite moments ever. It's just when they smash through the darn front of the door. There's Natsu and the whole guild sitting there being like, "We about to wreck you Guys, be prepared for the beatdown, the smackdown of a century, of a millennia. And then, like, it continued with them kind of retreating, but they found Lucy and got her back at least. And then later on, Phantom Lord came back and then attacked. But then this time they used Fairy Law, destroying, like, all of the Phantom Lord people. And it just caused the Phantom Lord Guild to be, dissolved. But just, ugh! That scene when they smashed through, just that alone made it my favorite scene ever. And that just, oh my goodness, it was just too good. The next one had to be the Erosion Seis. I think that was what they're called. Yes, the Erosion Seis. Where they attacked, they teamed up with the other two guilds to beat this dark guild called the Erosion Seis. It only had 6 members, technically 7, but we're not going to talk about the specifics with 0. But to be truthful, I didn't really care much for 90% of the arc. The only thing that really made the arc memorable, in my opinion, is the very end, where Natsu fights Zero, and Zero just gets destroyed, but it's one of, like, Natsu's big fights where he also turns into his golden form and just goes insane. But then the thing that really, really makes it a good arc is the ending of it was just so much of the feels. Like, you can just you can just feel your heartstrings being pulled out of your chest. Like, oh my god, it starts off with them getting back Jalal, who's Urza's in love with. And they're like, yeah, Jalal's a good guy now, but Jalal still committed crimes in the past. So because of this, the guard came, and they're like, we need to arrest this man, even if he doesn't have any memory, because apparently he had amnesia, but even if he doesn't have any memory of committing these crimes, he still needs to be tried for them because he still did commit them. And Urza's just like, but he's a good guy now. And they're like, well, I'm sorry. And Jalal goes, don't worry, I'll go peacefully, blah, blah, blah. I'm very sorry, Urza, but I have to go. And she starts crying, and it's just, it's just ripping out your heart, being like, oh, okay, it's good. It's good. I'm crying a little bit right now, but it's good. Then I think it's like the next episode, or it might have been in the same episode, Wendy makes it back to her guild, which we find out it wasn't even a guild. Apparently they're like, this village was destroyed, and this man he wasn't like the sole survivor. I think he was just a ghost of someone that got really close to surviving, and he couldn't go and rest, like be put to rest and in peace until this mission was completed and this machine was destroyed that Zero was operating. So because of that, he was still alive, but when he had his guild, he didn't have the guild, he was just alone, wandering, doing ghost things. But then this little girl came, and he was crying, and then he took care of the little girl, saying, you're now a part of our guild, and that there are all these people here. But he literally used his magical powers just to make other illusions of people. That way she would have friends. And then the next thing you know, he tells her, well, we were all ghosts, or, well, I was a ghost, and all these people are fake. Everything that you've known in your life has been a lie. Yeah, that's something you tell a child, because it was Wendy who they're telling this to, who's pretty young. And it's like, oh my god, the next thing you know, she's bawling her eyes out because all of her friends are disappearing before our eyes, and the build master, who's the old man, is just like fades away, smiling and waving, being like, it was a great time. And then Urza walks up and comforts her because she just had her feelings completely destroyed. And it's just like, it hurts your soul. Like, honest to God, it just hurts your soul. I was bawling when this scene happened, and my friend even kind of warned me about it. Not that he watched ahead, I was actually ahead of him, but he didn't look it up, but he saw some stuff from like other people talking about it, and apparently that's one of the most saddest moments in the entire series, which is true. Which is very true. And like I already watched the Urza thing and I'm like, man, I was crying. I was in tears seeing the Urza thing. And then he goes, "Oh, I heard that it just gets worse." And I'm like, "What? How can it get any worse?" And then I watched the next and was like, "Oh my god, it gets so much worse. It's so much worse. Oh my god." Oh man, it was so emotional but so good. It made the entire arc, but oh man, if you watch that part, just prepare to cry. Nothing can prepare you for how much you're going to cry. Ugh. And then the next one would be Tenro Island. Oh my lord. Tenro Island. So it's yet again a lot like the Roshan Sace, where they're fighting a dark guild, which is like Hades, is the name of this guild, and it's actually deeply connected to Fairy Tail, blah blah blah. And then for like this arc starts pretty meh with them just doing these challenges to become better wizards and to move up in the Fairy Tail guild. But at the very end, it becomes super heartfelt with them fighting Hades, like the actual guild leader. Loxus comes back, even though technically Loxus shouldn't have even been there because he was sort of kicked out of the guild at the time. But Loxus comes back, and he's just like, hey, let me help. He fights Hades for a little while, but then they hand it over to Natsu and everybody, and then they are the ones that actually end up beating Hades. Now, this was a cool moment, but it really wasn't, it didn't catch my eye. The thing that really made me put this on the list was the fact that they, what's it called? That Acnologia appears on the island, which, if you don't know what Acnologia is, it's a giant human dragon slayer that is capable of turning into a dragon. Now, all dragon slayers have the capability of turning into a dragon to a degree, but he has a capable of turning into like a legit full-on dragon instead of just like a half dragon breed mix, whatever. And because of that, he's like he's like the most strongest being in the world, basically. And he goes and he starts attacking the Fairy Tail Guild at Tenro, and then they all get together. Originally, they start running, and the guild master's like, "I will defend my students. They are my children." And he's happy to die for them. But then the next thing you know, they all come back and they try to rescue him. And then together they sort of sacrifice their life knowing that they can't beat Acnologia. But then things happen and they actually get saved. And it turns out that they were put into a cocoon life-saving thing, which is a fairy spell, like the fairy orb or something like that is like the name of it. Where, that like saved all their lives from Acnologia, but it's made like several years go by. Well, it didn't really make that happen. They were just in the cocoon for several years, and they didn't realize it. But yeah, it's not really the main important part. The main important part is just the fact that, like, yet again, kind of the feels of them all rescuing their people, rescuing their master, and just kind of sacrificing themselves. The next area that had to be, the next just part in general that had to be my favorite overall, that I think had the most action, had the most feeling, had the most everything, and just in my opinion was a great arc, had to be the Grand Magic Games. Like, oh my lord. The Grand Magic Games had so much in it. You got to see Jalal fight his heart out. Sort of. He actually wanted to use the magic spell that they stopped him from using. You got to see the group known as Sabretooth. You got to see like Urza just want to murder the heck out of Sabretooth members and use like I think it's her strongest armor or second strongest armor. You got to see relatives of the people that like we saw die in the past. They brought back other characters. They made a villain that you just wanted to slaughter. You got to see Natsu and Gajeel beat the heck out of 2 Fairy Tail members and got to see this one girl who actually got kicked out of Sabretooth. Or did I say beat the heck out of Fairy Tail members? No, beat the heck out of Sabretooth members. Got to see this one girl get kicked out of the guild because she lost, and apparently there's like a rule against losing. And then because she got kicked out, Natsu was like, "Oh no, that's not how a guild should be." And he went and destroyed the heck out of their entire guild. He probably would have beat the guild master, to be completely honest, but then he didn't really get a chance to. And just overall, they just continued to like show such awesome fights, and then like it didn't even end where you think it was. There was a whole bigger storyline being developed in the background that you didn't even know was like, well, you kind of got hints that was moving on, but like you had no idea. Loxus literally fought an entire guild 1v5 or 6 and defeated them. And then like the bigger storyline in the background was something about dragons, and then the next thing you know, like dragons are all over this world, and Natsu goes and beats the heck out of this guy that's like controlling the dragons, and just and then he uses Atlas, which was one of the dragons that like came back from the afterlife, basically. Well, technically you get traveled through time, but it's a big storyline. It just kind of happened in the background, but you watch that and it just the entire arc was just phenomenal. So many different things throughout it were just great and just fantastic. And if you're going to watch any arc, if you're just going to pick one, even if you don't know any of the characters, pick the Grand Magic games, because in my personal opinion, it was their best arc yet. Like not even Tartarus compares. Like it was just their best arc yet. It was, oh man, it was just too much and so great. And then there was the Tartarus arc, which it's yet again, and it's another one of the arcs that I really didn't care for while it was going on. There was this big old thing going on in the background. Enemies were being fought, or people got kidnapped. Yada 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 yada. Yeah, it seems like it. I didn't really care for it, to be completely honest. So, and this is my favorite moments. Okay, my. But because of that, what I really cared for was the very end. Once you find out that Igneel, which is Natsu's father, sort of, which is a dragon who's been like half dead because he technically got killed by Acnologia, has been living inside of Natsu all this time, and then Acnologia comes back, and then they start fighting Acnologia again, and this time Igneel dies for real, and at the same time the other dragons that were inside of Gajeel and Wendy also die, but like the main thing is with Natsu and how he finally sees his dad again, who he's been searching for the entire season, the entire series. He's been searching for his dad, just wanting to find him again, and just... oh man, and then he finally does die now, and he's saying like he gets like a whole story of like saying sorry to Natsu, but Natsu's just bawling his eyes out, and that is actually the very latest season in general. And that's just it was really good, but as I said, it wasn't until the end that I really started caring about that, and it was just watching Igneel fight and Natsu fight his enemy, and just them beat the heck out of Tartarus and stop their plans of like basically world domination, and just, oh man, it was just such a good stinking arc. Now, the last thing, I had to put the two movies in here. Like, come on, come on. They were really, both of them were very good. Honestly, they were so fantastic, both in terms of like how the animation looked and just everything about it was great. First, there was like the Phoenix Priestess, who you learn about this girl who has been living for thousands of years, but she didn't even realize that she's been living for thousands of years. And then they go to like a far off land, um, where then they're fighting this random guy who wants to get a phoenix tear so he can live forever. And then they try burning this the one girl, but because she has like a phoenix tear inside of her, she can't die. But then they finally actually kill the phoenix itself, which you expect to be a giant firebird, is actually some sort of weird machine basically that shoots lasers and shit. Who then, upon it finally, like Natsu finally killing it because it died, the one lady ends up dying even though she had a phoenix tear and she's been living for so long. And Lucy, who had like really got to know this other person, starts bawling her eyes out, just being like, "Why did she need to die? Oh my goodness, she was such a good person. She just wanted the best for people. She was just confused. She didn't know. She had amnesia." And then Natsu came over to comfort her and help her out. And then the next series was with the Dragon Staff, or the next movie was with the Dragon Staff, where this one random hunter dude wanted to control basically the world with the staff and like the power that was inside of it. But then this other person who was actually a legit dragon ended up putting his soul inside of this one girl, but she didn't really realize this, and it gave her multi-personality disorder, where one of her personalities was like her regular self and the other personality was the dragon that was inside of her. And then she lived for several years, and she like the dragon finally came out from her, and then he took control over the staff and started to absorb its power. And then Natsu fought him, and Natsu actually lost to him at first, got impaled. But then Natsu got back up, turned into like a half dragon, and then just destroyed the heck out of the crystal dragon dude. And then you actually got to see a little bit more of the story with Acnology and stuff, and it was just an overall very, like, both the movies are just phenomenal. They were great. Okay, and that has been Fairy Tail, my favorite moments. Yeah. It definitely is a different style video than what I usually do. Both has a bit more editing and less editing, depending on in certain areas than others. I didn't want it to be too much in the form of editing where it just goes around and I didn't want like everything I say to cause a different effect on the screen, but I kind of am a little upset with how it turned out a little bit, with how just some parts of it seem a little bland. But just overall, if you just give your opinion on it in the comments, and I will gladly get back to you as soon as I physically can. These were my legit favorite moments. I loved each of them. The entire series in itself is great. If you want to watch Fairy Tail, and like this helped you decide that you actually did, like, it helped you get the courage to watch it, then like, I'm glad and I'm thankful that I could help you, because it is a great show overall, and I just loved it. But yeah, like, there you go. That has been this video. So, thank you all very much for watching this Fairy Tail favorite moments, and I'm going to bid you all adieu. Goodbye.